Hi together. So make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me? If not, there's a little note upstairs. Yeah, I leave messages there. So nice to see you all. Let's get started slowly. I'm Michael. Should we have not met or should you have not seen me, I'm happy to see you here today. I will play around a little bit with German grammar, give you an overview over a quite confusing topic which you've heard and read about in the announcement. So if you want to share where you're from, that always helps. And let me do the usual poll just for my market research. I'm already learning with SG. Yeah, 9. So let's see who here actually already knows my work and who doesn't. It doesn't matter. It's just for me. It's interesting who's there. Yeah. So we are starting, yes. If you have any questions, you can type them down already. I will later on scroll through the whole thing and answer them. We have a Q&A at the end. I'll give you an overview of what happens. And let me start the slideshow now. Yeah, who's not here yet can watch the replay as well. Here we go. Topic today is Werden. And Werden is a tricky thing because you will see. Nice. I will ignore the chat for now. Just if there's anything serious happening, just whatever, leave some stars or something that sticks out, but I don't think that should be the case. We have an emergency button, a panic button I can click and then it will reconnect. Yeah, good. Here we go, Werden. So, little presentation, usually half an hour, special offer for those who don't work with me, who work with me. It's not for you unless you want to upgrade to the next level. And then we have a Q&A, 10 minutes, but it can last longer. You can drop out anytime if necessary. And you have registered. That means you get a replay link at the end via email. Make sure to check your spam folder. Yeah, use A. Oh, yeah, okay. It's morning there. So Werden. By the way, let me make my picture a bit smaller. Otherwise, you won't have much to look at. No, I like the logo. There. Yeah, here's nice. So, first of all, this is an overview lesson. I give you an overview of all the forms and all the uses of Werden. And if you work with my course, lucky you, I will introduce everything step by step, which is how it should be, because otherwise you just get overwhelmed and you confuse things, because the topic is everything is very similar. As you can see here, you see Werden and then Wurden, and it's Würde, which kind of works exactly like wurde in conjugation. Then you have worden, geworden. It's lots of information. So my suggestion is you just lean back, enjoy the ride, and if you want, you can watch the replay. You can also take a screenshot of this. If you work with my course, you can lean back and just see this as a little preview of what's about to come. And it's always good to be primed, to also have a rough understanding of what's ahead of you. Things will fall into place. Yeah. And as I said, the video will be available for replay for roughly a week, and then I'll re-record it because then I will not make the mistakes I'm bound to make, and put it in the course. So that's the main purpose of this whole thing. But for now, enjoy it. Good. Let me end the poll. Good enough. 11%. That's quite something. Okay. Rough overview over the uses, and I will go into every use case. Again, I might have forgotten one, but that's no problem because it's the one that is absolutely not being used. The first use case of the, well, it's an old presentation, but okay. The werden is passive. Passive is something when something happens to you. For example, I am being robbed or I have been robbed. So you're not the one doing the robbing, you are the victim of the robbing, but grammatically you are still the subject of the whole thing, and that's what we call passive. Don't worry if you don't know passive yet. We will always get examples. These things need to be introduced step by step. Here's an example. Ich werde angerufen. Try to translate this already, even if you haven't seen this before or have no idea what a passive is. I'll also translate this for you, of course. Yeah, angerufen, you see, is a past participle, which, by the way, is this P2 on the left. Werden plus P2, past participle or Partizip 2. So I am being called, and that's what we call the passive, also in English. Then another use case which is just similar, it's not the passive, it is simply werden on its own. I just put it there because it fit. It's a nice contrast. If you encounter werden solo, without anything, any other verb, or any other main verb, then you can translate it. And that's the only time when you actually translate it, when it has a meaning. For example, here, ich wär Lehrer, and you see the translation here, so you should be able to translate this. You can also type this if you want. Typing it down will help. I am becoming a teacher. And this is really the only time where you translate werden as to become. And to show you the relation, only in 1% of the cases that you use werden, it can be translated with to become. So it's a little 99% of the cases it means something completely different. It is not really directly translatable. It's not always passive presence. I just put that there to show you the relation. So my suggestion is you completely forget about werden with the meaning of to become, because it is absolutely irrelevant in your whole German learning career. Yeah, unless you want to say, I become a mother, I become a father. That's a one, well, for some people, more in a lifetime event. And in that moment, you're fine. The second use case, or third, actually, werden plus an infinitive. Infinitive is the form you find in a dictionary, if you still have those paper ones, or maybe online. To go, to eat, to see. And whenever you find werden with an infinitive, you have what we call the future, or actually the futur one. Ironically, here's an example. Ich werde anrufen. Ironically, the future is also more often used not for the future at all. Yeah, it is rather used to make assumptions, whether it's futur 1 or futur 2. Again, I go into every part in detail in a minute. Ich werde anrufen, I will call, or I'm going to call. There's no significant difference in German between these two. Yeah, it's much easier than English. Another use case, werden plus past participle. It's almost like the first one, plus haben or sein. I didn't have much space, you will see that in a minute. So what that does, ich werde angerufen haben, and if I translate this, you will possibly already get this. I will have called. So it's something that happens in the future, and that's actually finished in the future. Ironically, as I said before with futur 1, this is very rarely used with the future in mind. It is rather used for assumptions. I explained that very nicely in my B2 course. The futur 2 is B2, even though it's not complicated necessarily. Yeah, futur 1 I might mention in the B1 course, but it's also rather B2 stuff. It's unnecessary for B1. If you want to express the future, you use something else. Then worden is a wonderful word that confuses everyone, and you will see why when I click the next time. Worden plus a past participle. is basically number 1, which was the passive presence, but now in the past form, passive perfect. Ich bin angerufen worden. So worden and angerufen, you basically put the Werde of number 1 to the very end, change it to an O, and you have to use it with bin, always. I get to that later. So I have, ich bin angerufen worden. I have been called. Now, many people struggle. Should I use worden or should I use geworden? Geworden, I've marked this blue so that you see the relation, is simply the to become imperfect. And as we never use to become werden, you also never really use this one. I give you an example nevertheless. So could you maybe make it already? Could you put ich werde Lehrer in the perfect tense? Don't worry if you can't. Yeah, I'll give you a second to do this in your head. You see the form here. So here, ich bin Lehrer geworden. I have become a teacher. Or I became a teacher, no difference. Yeah. Well, funny enough, actually this one I possibly would use a bit more often. Ich bin Lehrer geworden in order to, I don't know, teach German. Might be more often than I claim, but nevertheless, you just, you can ignore it for the most part. It will help you greatly if you don't translate it in your head. Yeah. Then we have another one, just a different vowel in the stem, wurden. And again, it's a past participle. Past participle is very present here, which is simply the passive in the preteritum. So we have passive presence in 1, we have passive perfect in 4, and passive preteritum in 5. And it's as simple as that. Ich wurde angerufen. It's like number 1, just replace werde with wurde. That's a very simple form. And I will go into the difference between 4 and 5 when I go into the details. One more case, and that is würden. Also, people confuse würden oder wurden oder worden. Yeah, you see the similarities. It's not that easy. Würden again goes with the infinitive, which is nice, but it looks very close to wurden, and that causes the confusion. Anything that's very similar is tricky for people to keep apart. And that's what we call the conjunctive 2. The conjunctive is there to express possibilities or hypothetical occasions or wishes, desires, requests. I'll give you an example. Ich würde gern Lehrer werden. I would like to become a teacher. So I've played with the werdens here, but let me give you a simpler example. Ich würde gern Auto fahren. You can read the fahren, right? Let me put this here. Ich würde gern Auto fahren. So I would like to drive a car. Or I would like to go by car, something like that. Yeah, I would like to take a ride in my car. Would be the best. So you see here würde and an infinitive. And this is I would like to, or I would. Würde mit Umlaut is always would. Yeah. So somehow OU in English turns into an U umlaut. Maybe that's a little thing to remember. The umlaut dots, they look like 2 little O's if you go zoom into them. So maybe that can help you to remember. Würde is always would. And none of the others, 1 to 5, ever means would, ever. So that's the beauty of this. Okay, let's take a look at all these little things. And again, relax, lean back. It's just an overview for you. It should make things clearer, and you don't have to remember this. If this is all new to you, breathe in, breathe out. It will become clear if you work with my course and if you have a good teacher. So passive presence. Meine E-Mails werden gecheckt. Try to translate in your head. For now, translation is fine. This is a kind of lesson, so you can translate. Yeah. The passive is the first thing. So that's the present form of the passive. It's werden plus past participle. Meine E-Mails werden gecheckt. How would you translate that? Translation coming in 3, 2, 1. Here. My emails are being checked. And you can see the similarity, at least the past participle checked is even pretty close to the German one. So that's a little marker, a little hook. Yeah, so you need the past participle, the past form, despite this being the present form. Yeah, the presence is indicated by werden, are being. Yeah, if you're being, that's very present. Let's go to the Präteritum form. I prefer the Präteritum as a second one because it is very simple. All you do is you replace werden with wurden. So can you translate this quickly? That should be very easy. Yeah. So something is happening to the emails. That's why it's a passive form. The emails are not doing anything. They're not checking themselves. They are being checked. And in the past, they were being checked. Yeah. So wurden were being checked. The past. My emails was checked. That's an interesting version. Okay, last but not least, you know we have 3 past tenses, but let's take the second one, the most common one. The perfect. And the perfect, you see, gets a bit more complicated. We have to use sein with the past participle and then worden. I put that in the order that you need it. So meine E-Mails sind gecheckt worden. How would you translate that? That's an interesting question. It's what we call a Fangfrage. Kind of a trick question. If you were here 2 weeks ago, you might know the answer. So the translation of this is the same as into. Yeah. In German, there is absolutely no difference between the Präteritum and the perfect when it comes to the meaning. So it doesn't matter which one you use. And in the passive, actually, you are free to choose whatever you like. It's a bit regional. Some people use the perfect version of the passive more often, others the Präteritum. Here is indeed you are allowed to use the Präteritum version because it's the passive. That's the biggest difference. Normally you would use the perfect, and it's not that difficult. Yeah, sind worden is always a form of to be. Ich bin untersucht worden. Ich bin gefragt worden. I have been asked. I have been asked. We're being asked. Interesting. Yeah. So this is a very quick overview of all the passive in all 3 tenses, and it's beautifully simple and gorgeous, and you will learn this in my course. But you see here, you have 3 different forms of werden, and they all use the past participle as well.